Watching a special edition of The Polls focusing on the Kumail by-election this afternoon. Allegations of vote buying are rearing its ugly heads hours into the by-election. We're live on the ground as both the opposition, National Democratic Congress, and the governing New Patriotic Party have been deploying bigwigs to serve as polling agents and observers in the constituency. Also this afternoon, the Energy Minister, Dr. Marty Opoku-Prempeh, is taking on the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation Board Chairperson, Freddie Blay, for offering portions of Ghana's interest in its oil field to a South African company. We have details as 29 civil society organizations pile pressure on President Akufo-Addo to sack Freddie Blay and one other person from office. We'll get you all of that here on The Polls. The Polls is live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. I am Blessed Ogan. Thanks for choosing us. We're back with the details shortly. Please stay. You're welcome back. We'll take you shortly to Kumail, but let's start off with the energy sector. 29 civil society organizations are piling pressure on President Akufo-Addo to sack GNPC board chairperson Freddie Blay and CEO Opoku Dankwa from office. This follows revelations that Ghana's interest in some of its oil fields have been offered to a South African company, Petroleum Oil and Gas Corporation, Petro SA. The GNPC board chairperson is said to have written to Petro SA offering it an equal split in the interest held by GNPC, a subsidiary of Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited. Dr. Prempeh insists that this move is not in the interest of the country, as the nation will lose revenue. He is therefore asking Mr. Blay to withdraw the offer immediately. Let's get more from Joseph Akablay, who's been following this story for us. He's joining us after a press briefing by a representative of some of these 29 civil society organizations that we're talking about. But beyond the issues of the deal itself, why are they asking, first of all, for the dismissal of Freddie Blay?
I mean, it stems from what they have discovered by the way of the letter that was written by the Energy Minister to Freddie Blay, the board chairman of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Now, that particular letter makes reference to an earlier October 2022 letter that was written by the Energy Minister to Mr. Freddie Blay. And that letter states here that the corporation should cease any further negotiations with Petro SA on matters of Petro SA's intended preemption of the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited stakes. It again states that the stakes were acquired by the government of Ghana with state funds. The government of Ghana has informed the South African government through the minister responsible for natural resource and energy in a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the African Energy Week 2022 in Cape Town that Ghana would not approve any preemption of the Jubilee Oil Holdings stakes. And so subsequent to the meeting, again, the Minister of Minerals and the Energy in South Africa on the above subject has also been informed of this particular development. The conclusion of this letter written by the Energy Minister is quite interesting. It says, "It is therefore scandalous that in spite of these directives, you have led the GNPC to offer parts of the government-acquired Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited interest in the deepwater tunnel reserved to Petro SA. I direct that you cease and desist from any further floating of the directives forthwith and withdraw the offer made to Petro SA." In your letter.
Do we know if the board chair has made any public comments or perhaps has justified what may be happening in this latest deal that we're hearing of?
We have not seen a formal public comment on this matter. We have reached out. We are told that in terms of what they know about this particular transaction, they are saying that this is not an entirely accurate reflection of the state of affairs. But we'll still try and engage them to get an interview on this.
How about the civil society organizations? The deal itself, the claim that it's not in the interest of the country. What more arguments are they making to support this?
So they make the point that in terms of the estimated revenue from these fields in issue, just 1 year, they said the nation got $290 million from it. And so the argument is that if Ghana sees 50% of its interest, it will mean that what it will be obtaining from these fields will be less than the $290 million. And so Abdul Karim Mohammed, who addressed the news conference on behalf of the civil society organizations, is making a point that as far as they are concerned, for Freddie Blay making that offer, he should be sacked. We can watch him make that point.
Even though AKE has sold their interest in Ghana, they are scheming to stay on the Pecan development through surrogates and Ghanaian collaborators across segments of our society to amass ridiculous benefits from the Pecan field development. AKE Energy purchased an FPSO for $35 million. In their plan of development submitted to the government, AKE's previous owners intended to build Ghana $1.7 billion for the FPSO. We admit that the Energy Ministry has raised a preliminary objection to the cost of the FPSO, but there is no proposal on how much the ministry considers fair value for the FPSO. 2. Originally, a tanker called ST Polar Alaska, manufactured 36 years ago, was converted into an FPSO 14 years ago. Now, typically, FPSOs have an average payback period of 5 to 7 years, varying based on size and configuration. The lease period for rented option is commonly 10 years. Technocrats have expressed concern about the FPSO's age and have recommended caution, but there is political pressure to proceed with a deal. We are monitoring this keenly and demand transparency on the judgment of the ministry before the approval is granted. We demand the immediate removal of GNPC CEO Opoku Ahwenneɛ Dankwa and the board chairman Freddie W. Blay from their respective positions, as they have become a threat to Ghana's interest in the petroleum sector. 6. Additionally, we demand the immediate transfer of JOHL and all its assets from Cayman Island and other jurisdictions to GNPC. 7. We demand immediate disclosure of the AKE plan of development from the Petroleum Commission and the government. To conclude, we firmly believe that a country micromanaged by the IMF cannot be seen to engage in fiscal recklessness that undermines its recovery. In these difficult times, the nation needs prudent management of its resources to derive the fullest benefits and bring relief to the suffering masses. Furthermore, we encourage citizens to demand accountability on the petroleum sector to ensure that our natural resources benefit all citizens of the nation.
Well, so that's the demand of the civil society organizations, but it's bringing up a conversation also about another petroleum company involved in this whole chain. What's the breakdown to this?
So it has to do with AKE Energy. And in terms of this particular involvement, I think if we go a step back a bit, you recall that about 2 years ago, AKE Energy were in the news. It just had to do with the fact that there were some oil fields that AKE Energy was operating on. And they decided that they were going out of the country. So they were going to sell those oil fields, their interest in those oil fields, back to government. So they wanted to sell it for $1.6 billion. Parliament, GNPC went to Parliament, asking Parliament for authorization to go in to get a loan to purchase it. Now, the civil society organizations took the view that, in fact, Parliament eventually gave the GNPC the authorization to go ahead, but give authorization for $1.1 billion. Now, GNPC and the CSOs, for that matter, take the view that the $1.1 billion is inflated because they don't think that the fields are worth the amount of $1.1 billion. And so we are learning today from the CSOs again that following the concerns that were raised by the civil society organizations about the fact that the oil fields the price was inflated, AK Energy has actually pulled out and rather has given government the opportunity to acquire it for $1. And in the event that the fields prove to be profitable, then the state will pay them $200 million.
In how many years?
It depends on how, when the production is able to take place. Now, they have some assets here, which includes an FPSO, the floating petroleum system that is used to drill the oil. Now, that is the asset that you heard Mr. Mohammed make reference to. Once they've pulled out, they want to sell that asset to Ghana. And we are told that, according to the CSOs, the assets, the FPSO was acquired by AK Energy for $35 million. But they want to sell it to Ghana for $1.7 billion, which this time around, they also hold a view that this is bloated as well. Interestingly, the CSOs claim that the Energy Ministry has actually written to AK Energy to object to it, to say that the price is too high. And so the CSOs are saying that, yes, they are happy that the minister has objected to
Okay, so let's get an understanding to this. The position of the minister, at what point is this coming through? The objection that we're learning from Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, and why is he making that objection when indeed the GNPC has the power to go into such a negotiation?
Because the minister holds the view that, as far as he's concerned, once those fields became available, state funds were used to acquire the fields. Now, he makes the point that the fields are valuable, and so far, from what the CSOs tell us, a single year, the nation made $290 million. And government has taken the decision that they are not going to relinquish those fields. And so he thinks that it should not be offered to Petro SA because the larger public interest will be better served, i.e., on our own managing those fields, we can get a lot more money than if we decide to relinquish some of it to a different partner, which is Petro SA in this particular instance. So that is how come he holds the view that it is not in our interest that it should be offered. And mind you, once Petro SA on their own as partners in the space have already made a request, which will have to be approved by GNPC and government for that matter. And so that is how come he's saying that the government policy, which has been communicated to the South African Ministry of Petroleum, is the fact that government is not going to approve for such a takeover to take place.
What would that be in terms of impact on this oil field? Because obviously someone is pulling out, we're no longer interested, as Akira is indicating. But you still have Petro SA who says, we're interested in this, we'll take over. What then happens to the field? Who's going to be in possession of this field?
I mean, so far, the ownership structure, including the government's interest and everything, has not been tampered with so far. It's not been touched since it got pulled out and the new owners took over. Everything has been run, and the state is making money, it's exploring the field and making money from it. And so the impact for now, nothing negative is happening as we speak now. But what it will only mean is that in the event that they pull out of it, or we decide to relinquish to Petro SA, it would only mean that what we'll be earning will go down. But it could also additionally mean that there will be more investment in the space because we'll have another partner coming on board. And so if we are supposed to raise capital to undertake exploration, it will not just be the Jubilee Oil Holdings Company Limited putting its value.
But although interest may be coming down if Petro SA takes over, that will be because we're no longer making any significant investment in terms of exploration. This company will do so and give us our stakes. That's the explanation to this?
It depends on how far we go by way of exploration. But we are told that in a single year, the nation was able to make $290 million from that particular field. And so as far as the CSOs are concerned, it's a valuable field. They do not think that it's a field that we have any issues with, for which reason we should decide to allow Petro SA exercise their preemptive rights to acquire.
What's likely to be the next steps for this 29 civil society organizations?
I mean, even before that, we know that Parliament has taken a keen interest in this particular matter. There is a statement that is signed by the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, John Jinapo, a statement that he signed here. Let me quickly run you through that statement. It says, the minority in Parliament has sadly uncovered a clandestine and surreptitious attempt by the GNPC and its board chairman to sell the 7% shares acquired by the Republic of Ghana from Anadaku West Cape 3 Points Company, that is Anadaku, to Petroleum Oil and Gas Corporation of South Africa, Petro SA. As usual, we have cited correspondence between the GNPC and Petro SA revealing a covert attempt by the GNPC to offload the said shares, which we consider as illegal and unconscionable. We have equally taken note of the usual desperate attempts by the Minister of Finance to commit Ghana yet again by borrowing huge sums of money from Letasco, a private company, on the back of the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited by forward selling the Republic of Ghana's crude oil expected from the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited. For a government that has overborrowed its way into a state of bankruptcy, the least this government can do will be to refrain from such reckless borrowing, especially against future oil receipts. This action is highly reprehensible, and all steps must be taken to pull the brakes on this government from the insatiable desire to keep borrowing with the least opportunity. This act, if not checked, will further exacerbate the already precarious debt levels Ghana has currently found itself in. Enough of the wastage, and is signed by John Abdullahi Jinapo, MP and ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee.
Grateful. We'll be following this matters.
But I'm going to pay my 50 cities. What 50 cities? My 50 cities. One at the mouth. LPV. One young Oscar. I want to tell you what we tell you, Grandma, and my mother, and you remember what Grandma in our Gia. Yeah, what about one on our year? You may give your boy, and to see our right here or my more, yet near Jumaya. Your woman, and mother, I didn't bring you by pepper, that in the more bien capre, and the Ghana, who's a real, I did dear plan. Why are you looking over the different? Why are you looking?
Well, excerpts there of what has been happening in the last few hours within the Kumu constituency of the Ashanti region, where a by-election is underway. Of course, 4 candidates slugging it out for that parliamentary seat, which became vacant after Philip Bazoa unfortunately passed on. We can now bring in some of my colleagues who've been monitoring the election, which is underway there. Nana Bwachi Yadom is joining us via Zoom, and we have Nana Yaojima also joining us on Zoom for more on this. We'll get a lot more from some other colleagues who've been monitoring developments at some polling stations where accusations of vote buying has been made as to how true these claims are. Let's find out from our reporters then. Let's start off with Nana Yaojima. You've been to a number of the polling centers where elections are underway. What can you report from where you are?
I'm at Papaso number 1 polling station, where we're expecting a little over 550 electorates to come here to cast their ballots. Just before coming on air, I did my check, and we've had about 252 electorates coming in, going through the process and casting their ballots here at the Papaso number 1 polling station. And I've visited some of the polling stations within the Kumewu township where I am presently, and I can report that in almost all the 11 polling stations within the Kumewu town itself, we've had a little over 50% voter turnout. So as since we have at least 2 more hours to end today's by-election, or for the whole of the process to end, there is expectation that a number of the people who have registered to cast their ballots will come in and do the needful, so that by 5 p.m. we'll have the EC close the election for ballots to be counted. So far, it's been very calm within the Kumewu and the Papaso communities. Just that in some of these polling stations, there have been a little bit of misunderstanding. For instance, where I am presently, that's the Papaso number 1 polling station. You can see a number of security personnel all over, policemen all over. If I should do a head count now, I can count at least 10 policemen here at the Papaso number 1 polling station. And the reason is simple. A few minutes ago, there were some disturbances. The people here at Papaso number 1, which is believed to be the stronghold of the independent candidate, Kwakubia 1. There were some people who the people suspect are for the NPP. They came in and allegedly they were trying to induce some people with money, and that's according to the people here, the residents here. And this didn't go down well with the residents. So it's sparked some misunderstanding here, and immediately the police were called in, and a patrol vehicle of the police came in here to restore calm at the Papaso number 1 police station. They left behind some reinforcement. That is why now we are counting more than 10 policemen here on the ground just at Papaso electoral area. The other police stations have policemen dotted across these police stations, and these policemen, some of them are in uniform, and I'm learning that there are some plainclothes policemen also on the ground. In every police station that I've visited here today, I can count not less than 4 policemen stationed there. So generally, the atmosphere here, the Kumewu and Papaso communities have been very calm.
Generally, the description from observers, as we understand, is that this has been a calm atmosphere. How come this incident is happening at the Papaso number 1? And just as you pointed out, we're not fully vexed with the matters there, but what do you suspect might be accounting for this?
Who retreated. The police have been calm. The one thing that is common within all the police stations that I've visited are allegations of vote buying. So the people who are not in favor or who do not see vote buying as something that should be promoted within the constituency, they are very, very, very angry about it, and they will go every length to stop anybody who they suspect to be inducing some of these electorates. That is what went down here at Papaso. Papaso, mind you, is the stronghold of the independent candidate that the Kwakubia won. And that's the first independent candidate, then the known Kwakubia within the Kumewu constituency. And it is believed that some people who are also a representative of some other candidate came here trying to induce people within the Papaso community, that's the Papaso number 1 polling station. And this did not go down well with the supporters of Mr. Kwakubia. And that is when this misunderstanding broke out, which there was the need for the police to step in and calm situations. So as you can see from the Kumewu roundabout through to Papaso and the other roads, everything is very calm. You can see a lot of people seated around there, and these are supporters of the independent candidate, I learned. And they are all here to observe the situation and also try to stop anybody who will come here to, in attempt or with the mind of inducing the electorate here at Papaso. So that's why you can count a number of these policemen, uniformed men, all here. And not too long ago, there was a police patrol vehicle parked just where I'm standing, and they just left this side to down street, all in the name of ensuring that Papaso community itself is very safe. And if there should be any misunderstanding, the police are ready and are here very close to step in and ensure that whatever happens, they bring the calm tensions here within the Papaso community.
Have we heard from any of the candidates so far?
So far through my tour within these communities, I haven't cited any of the candidates. Mind you, 3 of the candidates in this election are from gov't, where we have another, some of my colleagues also they're trying to cover that area for us. So we are learning that 3 of these candidates will be voting at gov't. So probably some of my colleagues there have cited some of them in this proposal. This is where I understand the Prokudia one includes. But since I came teaching here, I haven't cited him yet. Though I've cited some of his people around. They have a vehicle going around visiting almost all the police stations, and also he has his representatives here seated observing things here at Papaso. So in all of the police stations I've been to, the people that I've seen are representatives of people who are affiliated to these candidates going around and observing things on behalf of the candidate. So I'm yet to cite any of them.
Right. Let's bring in Boakye Yadom, and Nana Aljima, you might want to hold on for us briefly. Boakye Yadom, you've been to some other polling centres. What can you report?
2 hours to go, roughly 2 hours to the end of polls here for the Kumaru by-election. Well, my observation since we started the polls from 7 a.m. has been that of vote by here in some of the polling stations that we have been to. I have been to Bodumase, Dadiase, Impanta, Setre, and Oyoko, and I can report that at every polling station that I have been to, there is this issue of inducement, where when we got to Bono, it got to the extent where voters were rejecting money being given to them from some agents. According to them, the money that they agreed on was not what was given to them when they met the agents. So they had to reject the money that was being given to them. And even with some of them too, they took the money out of anger. They were saying they could not let the money go. But majority of them rejected the money that was being given to them. So the issue of inducement has been something going on critically here at the Kumaru constituency during this by-election. So we've cited many of them. And the issue of pink sheets being signed by polling agents even before polls began. Normally or ordinarily, we would see polling agents signing these pink sheets after polls. But this time around, polling officers forced these agents to sign the pink sheets before polls even began. So Peter Otukono was raising concerns, the NDC were raising concerns, and that polling station at Oyoko, every electoral process going on there was being put on hold up until the EC boss in the Ashanti region, Bio, would visit the place to check his things before they can continue the process. But for Oyoko right now, I can tell you as a matter of fact that the process has been on hold for now because of the allegation of polling officer forcing polling agents to sign the pink sheet before
20 election. During the actual voting, there was not many incidences, but it was during the collation that people were shot and killed and so on. Around in the afternoon, all those who gave verdict about the performance of the police, they had to eat back their words. So we are observing. Let's get a whole picture of the whole election, then we can talk about this case.
Take you back because Ohiming Tewia has some more updates for us, and of course he's been gathering a lot more on that. But first, let's hear from Nanayao Jima, who is back with us on Zoom. Nanayao, what more can you tell us?
So the allegations of vote buying continue to fly around Kumaru and its environment. Now there are some youth I spoke to earlier. They've actually pitched camp at one of the polling stations, and their expectation is that one of these aspirants or their representatives will come around and they negotiate their vote before they walk to the various polling stations to cast their ballot. So allegations of vote buying and people who are ready to sell their ballot to some of these aspirants is very, very tough among issues being discussed here in the Kumaru constituency. Let me chip in this. You know that you have two people bearing the same name, Kwekudia, in this particular race. That's two of the aspirants. Interestingly, wherever I've been within the Kumaru and Papaso communities, the second Kwekudia who came into the race later, that's the fourth on the ballot sheet, do not have any person representing him here among the representatives of the delegate of the aspirants. You know, by electoral laws, when someone is going into an election, there is need to present a representative in the polling station. But going through the various polling stations, I'm unable to see agents of the second Kwekudia in these polling stations, and many are surprised, because if you really want to be a member of parliament, standing an election or going into such a race, such a tough one, there should be someone monitoring the proceedings for this particular aspirant. But unfortunately, no agent for Kwekudia, the second Kwekudia, the fourth on the ballot in these polling stations that I've been to so far.
How about the police? Earlier you were pointing out that they've beefed up security in the area. Do they still have the presence on the ground?
Certainly. When we went off air, or when I was out, I tried counting the number of policemen here at Papaso, and I counted 15 policemen, all uniformed men here at Papaso. Not long ago, the patrol vehicle also came through the streets, went down there, and was also patrolling the area. So when it comes to security, it's at its maximum best here at Papaso. In other polling stations, there's also high security presence. At least 4 policemen at each polling station that I've been to here within Kumaru and Papaso.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. This is The Pulse. We're bringing you that special package on the Kumaru by-election. We'll be heading back into the area. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll get you some updates. Please stay. We'll take you back to Kumu. Ohiming Tere is joining us with more. Ohiming, what can you report from where you are?
Yes, Blessed. It's been a very busy day for the electors in Kumaru constituency as they go to the polls to elect their member of parliament. It follows the death of the incumbent MP for this area, Philip Atta Basua. It's been very busy because some of the residents have had to go to their farms before they come back to the communities to cast their ballot. It's something that is believed to have affected voter turnout. MPP, both the MPP and the NDC do believe that because this is a by-election, and also because perhaps this is also farming community, this may have impact on the voter turnout. But that notwithstanding, some polling stations have had what I would call more than half of the voter population covered. More than half of the voter population registered to cast their ballot in these polling centers have done so. A particular mention can be made of Methodist Primary School at Ananenya, where out of 346 registered voters, 207 had voted. When I visited the polling station about 30 minutes ago, and then at the Anglican Junior High School, which recorded some sort of a clash between the supporters of the independent candidate Kwekudia and the New Patriotic Party, though there are about 436 registered voters. As at the time I visited the polling station, over 200 of the voters had already voted. So, yes, voter turnout is low, but the MPP is very optimistic, as indicated by the National Chairman Stephen Ntim, that they expect more than 50% of voter turnout. But the NDC National Chairman Johnson Esiedun Ketia also do believe that yes, it's a by-election, so you are likely not to see that enthusiasm from the voters taking part in the elections. But definitely he's hopeful that we are likely to get reasonable voter turnout today. Security has also been very tight. In some of the polling centers that I visited, I could count about 6 police officers providing security in those areas. And it's something that the MPP is very, very happy with. The former NPP General Secretary, John Boadu, told me that because of the presence of the police, the political parties feel obliged not to spend on the party security. He talked about the fact that spending or providing party security at voting centers like this is very expensive. You have to gather people, transport them, feed them, and all that. So he was very happy and satisfied that the IGP has lived up to his promise to ensure that police will provide adequate security before, during, and after the Kumawu by-election. On the other hand, the NPP's national chairman, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, wouldn't want to rush to perhaps score police high marks when it comes to security during elections. According to Mr. Esiedun Ketia, normally or usually that has characteristics of a by-election. You don't see violence or mayhem or activities akin to voting pattern being recorded in before 3 p.m. So for him, he expects that if anything will happen, if people will try to circumvent the process, then that could be after 3 p.m. and during a collation. So he wouldn't want to rush in scoring police higher marks in bringing security under control here in Kumawu. So he says it's too early to give his verdict. And for him, generally, he's happy with the turn of events here in Kumawu. Just mentioning one or few instances where he thinks that something might have happened, something untoward might have happened, but then it's something that he says the NDC have no control over them. He mentioned, for instance, allegations of vote buying being perpetuated allegedly by NPP supporters. He says once these incidents are being recorded or happening 50 meters away from the polling centers, there's no way one could complain because they are not happening, or they could be, we cannot say they are directly related to the elections. And for that, he will want to keep his head high and also continue to support the National Democratic Congress candidate, Kwesi Amankwa, who had earlier alleged that he saw some supporters of the MPP trying to influence voters, induce them monetarily to vote for the NPP. At Anananya, where Mr. Kwesi Amankwa, raises concerns or allegations of vote buying against the MPP, we were in the community. We spoke to some residents who also refuted the allegations that there has been nothing like vote buying happening in the Anananya community. All that they said was that some of the electors who live outside the constituency were supported. They were seen coming in the bus, and after they had come to cast their ballot, they saw the bus going back. So those who coordinated their movement or their travels, saw them, and they had to speak to them. So perhaps that is what could have been described as vote buying by the National Democratic Congress. The Kumawu Mahine, Bema Safo Cheneboa Kodua, he also led the traditional authorities, the traditional leaders in the Kumawu constituency to also be part of the voting process. He himself was at the Chief's Palace polling station to cast his ballot, though he wouldn't want to speak to the media immediately after casting his ballot. He says he beckoned on me journalists to hold on, if anything at all, probably after the votes have been counted and results declared, he may want to comment on this in the media. So I would say generally it's been peaceful in Kumawu constituency, and voters are trickling in to cast their ballot with some few hours to end voting here in Kumawu. Blessed.
Grateful. Ohiming Terry joining us live from Kumawu, where elections are underway. In just about an hour, polling will close and we'll bring you updates. Boachi Adam is also there in that community. Boachi Adam, what can you bring us up to speed with? Let's, of course, move on to some of the stories. We'll definitely bring you updates on this happenings within the Kumawu constituency. Boachi, if you're with us, just bring us up to speed with what's happening. If you can hear me, what's the latest? Let's move on to some of the stories. We'll definitely bring you updates on what's happening in the Kumawu constituency. In just about 50 or less minutes, polling will close in that community, and then we'll know the outcome of the by-election. $257 pupils at the Pandu Primary School at the Northeast Gonja district of the Savannah region. Only 33 come to school regularly. Hunger has driven them out of school. Their parents say unpredictable rainfall patterns have affected their farming businesses, so they are unable to provide 3 square meals to their children. In today's edition of Ghana School of Shame, my colleague Jojo Kopina looks at how school feeding is impacting class attendance.
From afar, everything looks good at Pandu DA Primary School in the Northeast Gonja district of the Savannah region.
All right, you are welcome to Pandu KG Primary Basic School. Here is KG2. My name is Madam Rita Enima. I'm the facilitator for KG2 here. After the Easter holidays, when we came back from the house, children have not been coming to school. Tuesday, only one child who came. Today, only one person who is in. Due to poor parental assistance in the community here, most of the children come to school without eating. When they ask their parents, they will complain they don't have money to cater for their hours. So now, actually, I'm having the total number of 11 students in the class.
They don't feed them. So always, when they are in school, for some short period of time, they will say, oh, we are hungry, we want to go home, because there is no feeding in the school.
Parents here disagree that they are unwilling to support their children. They argued that they built the school, provided furniture, and even paid teachers before the government intervened. The school management committee chairman said their farming business has failed because of unpredictable rainfall, so they are unable to feed their families.
Last time, my son needed a coin, but I shouted at him because I had no money. I was annoyed. I yelled. It spoiled my day. How come I could not give my child just a coin? It broke my heart. Some men are even committing suicide. But I won't do that. We don't have money. Times are really hard. We, the parents of Pandu, built the school. At the time we built the school, we farmed and everything was good.
The few children here say they're also hungry and wish they stayed at home. They want to go to another school where they can get one hot meal a day. But the distance to the next school discourages them.
We are hungry. That is the reason why many of my colleagues are not in school. Other schools have school feeding. I can't force my friends to come to school. I can't give them food. So when I call them and they refuse to come, I can't force them.
The school has no feeding program. When you are hungry, you go home. The next day, you don't think about school. You think about the hunger you face in school, and you rather choose to roam in search of food.
The children also complained about their only source of water. The school has a water tank which harvests rainwater, but the rains are yet to pour in Pandu. So for now, the children would have to endure drinking from the dam.
Anytime we drink the water, we become sick, but we don't have a choice.
When you look at the type of water they drink here, seriously, sometimes the bottle that they fetch water inside, no, it's not easy. When you see it, we even take it and throw it away, but it's normal here for them.
So we visited the dam where the entire community fetches water. The water looks brown and dirty. Some say they use alum to purify it, but many say they drink it in its raw state. This water shared with cattle looks so dirty that some residents in Accra would not even consider using it to flush their toilets. But because clean running water is a luxury here, residents drink the dammed water without giving it a second thought. However, a quick reminder from the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, when he was campaigning in 2016.
The first 2 years of an MPP administration under this Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication program, where every constituency will get $1 million every for rural and deprived communities. Under this program, there should be no village or community in Ghana after the first 2 years that would have a water problem or a toilet problem.
Perhaps this is the perfect time for the Vice President to redeem the promise he made to the people. In summary, the problem here at Pandu is lack of basic needs, access to food and water. A non-governmental organization in the northern region focused on education, School for Life, organized residents of Pandu to form citizen groups to address problems facing the school. With funding from Global Partnership for Education, the NGO is implementing its citizen-led action for educational accountability and responsiveness project. The project has mobilized women, PTAs, youth parliaments, girl caucus, and community journalists to effectively engage local duty bearers, while School for Life engages with the central government. The women's group wants government to start a school feeding project immediately.
The school desperately needs the school feeding program so that the children will come back to school. It is really important.
The district chief executive of the Northeast Gonja district, Mohamed Musa Tindao, says even though he knows the problem facing the school, funding remains a challenge.
Areas where we have the school feeding, attendance there is higher than as compared to areas where we don't have the school feeding program going on. So that is one of the challenges that school feeding has also created. So I will appeal. I know since last year, since I came to office, we've not gotten any allocations. So perhaps we use this platform to appeal to school feeding program to at least expand the coverage, because once the student gets to know that their neighbor is getting this intervention, then parents think that the government is neglecting them because they don't care about them, because they prefer the other community to them. That is why they are not getting it. So there's that kind of misunderstanding. So I believe that with school feeding, it will also help to engender interest in education.
School feeding will certainly shoot up enrollment figures. If the Vice President redeems the government's promise to provide water to every community and village, it would greatly improve the health of the people. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Okay, let's get to the story, because this is really touching. The last series was about writing in the air. Now we're beginning to see how even school feeding is becoming a challenge in our schools as well. Jojo, it appears there's so much problem that we're facing at the basic level.
Yes.
And you're unveiling all of that as we go along.
It is. You know, I never believed, I used to think, oh, come on, why do we have school feeding? I mean, the parents are supposed to, they give birth to their children, they're supposed to feed them, supposed to give them food. And that was the attitude I started the story. I mean, when I got to the community, I was like, oh, well, children make up the school. Then we get to the community, realize that, I mean, a whole school, nice school, they have everything. But the children are not, that's like, why are the children? So the children are not coming to class, like, So they were, the parents are irresponsible. How can they come? Yes, you have to feed your own children. Why is it that you can't feed your own children? I mean, school fees is free, so the least you can do. So then I engaged the school management committee chairman, and then he told me something. And that thing stayed with me. He said, we built the school. We're the people who put the school there. We're the people who employed teachers before government intervened. The only reason why we are unable to feed our children now is because the rainfall pattern has changed. And so we are unable to feed the children. Like when we grow granuts and they grow a lot of granuts, nothing happens. Like they get very, very little money. They are unable to put the money to good use. It's very little. I mean, it's like living from hand to mouth. And that is the situation there. So they're saying, the man actually said, I yelled at my child for just 50 pesos and it spoiled my day. So that's when I was thinking about, like, okay, wow. And the children, they were hungry. They were so hungry that even when I got there, within 30 minutes, I mean, many of them scattered. It was just 33. Many of them went home. They were going to pee, and then they left just to roam, to go and find something to. Then, one thing that is not in the story is I bought mangoes. Mm. Immediately, I brought out the mangoes. Many of the children came.
Wow.
Mangoes. And that was when I realized that feeding is really a very important part. And that it's not that the families do not want to feed their children, it's because they are unable to feed them.
Mm. But then, in this community that you visited, you've been interacting with the teachers, and it's also a source of worry for them, because they see that the quality of education will simply not go anywhere.
So the teachers come, and then they go into the communities to talk to the children to come. And then the children will say they would come, and they fail to come, because a child is looking for what to eat, roaming, to see what they can do. And you know, Pandu it's a very interesting place. It's in the Savannah region, but it's very close to northern region, Tamale, very close. It's about 30 to 45 minutes drive, 30 minutes drive, straight to Tamale. So they quickly go there to go and do something. And some are dropping out to learn how to weave, to learn how to do basic things, because they do not find education very attractive. And it's because of survival. They just want to survive. So children at this particular age, instead of thinking about, I mean, their books and everything, are thinking about how to eat. The very basic, including water too as well. Where when you get to the community, I was like, well, there's the water that the children drink. And it's very heartbreaking to see that, I mean, all these years, we can't provide water for our children. I mean, this is a school. It's not even for water is not for hand washing, it is for drinking, consuming that. And I'm sure that you would not even use that water. You would not even give that water to your dogs or even use it to flush it.
Have you tried reaching out to local authority?
Yes, we did. We spoke to the DCE. Says, well, my Northeast Gonja district, very deprived. The problem is very big. It was part of the East Gonja and then it was separated.
After the creation of the
Yes,
new regions,
yes.
okay.
And he said, we don't have the money. We don't. That's the truth. He said the truth of the matter is that we don't have the money, and that we want central government to actually increase. So this is like a very strong case that we want to make for government to actually at least consider Pandu, because I mean, 33 children only in school when the population was
270. Yeah, 257. Right.
It's really a problem. So the children are just roaming, and then at the end of the day, I'm sure that now all these on the books, you would say, oh, these children are really, but when you actually get to the ground, you realize that no, children are not really there. And it's really a challenge.
How about the major economic activities within the community?
Farming.
Just farming.
Farming. And you know, one very interesting thing, when this is the rainy season, I mean, the rains are yet to really hit them. So all the way from November, all the way, they have not been farming. So they said they were waiting for the rain. And so that was where government planned, one village, one dam would have kicked in for them to, but I mean, the dams are not really working for them to actually cultivate during this dry season. I mean, it's a series that we'll be telling later. But around that particular time, from January, February, March, that time, I mean, all the way from December, because I mean, at least they have something from November, it's okay. But from January all the way till April, it is really difficult. It's really difficult. The weather is very hot and friendly, and they can't grow anything. People are just sitting down waiting for the rains. So it's like, have you cultivated? I'm waiting for the rains, and when the rains fail to come, it's a challenge. And so it is a problem. That's if only all these projects really worked, like One Village, One Dam was really working. I mean, we wouldn't have problems like this. But we have climate change. The rainfall patterns are very unpredictable, and unfortunately, the people are still relying on their old methods of doing things, and that is the problem.
And the issue about stakeholder collaboration, having CSOs, having NGOs join forces to cause change. Have you attempted networking with some of them just to see if they sense what's happening within this community, and possibly if we could have help coming through for these children?
Yes, there is this Christian group that used to feed the children in the past. But
okay, so there was feeding.
There was feeding.
And that drew a lot of
the
children back into school.
But they moved to another community. So they keep moving, and so that's the problem. And so it would be very great if this Christian foundation charity can go back to that community and then do something. Because indeed, when they left, you could really see the void that has been left in the school. I mean, no one is filling it, and the children are hungry, going around looking for food. And the state really must do something. If the state cannot do something, we need stakeholders going there to actually help the children, because it is indeed. As I told you, when I got there with the mangoes, children, I mean, coming all around and being very excited about just mangoes. And I was just asking myself, indeed, you before you learn, you need something to put in your stomach. I mean, there's this guy proverb that says, you need something in your tummy to actually blow the trumpet. So we need to feed our children. I mean, and this is a major problem. And if you check, I mean, there's so many statistics that have come out, especially from the Savannah region, where many children are dropping out. And these are the factors: lack of school feeding.
And we understand that this is just one in the series.
This is
a lot more to come.
A lot more to come. So next week we are looking at a very interesting story of a mining area where miners keep pushing the school away. So the children had their own school, and then gold was discovered on their land. And then the children had to move. And then when they moved, they realized that where the children went to, more gold.
There's also gold there.
So they had to move. So now the quarry is so close to the site, and the children, so they started blasting. The children really feel it when the blasting happens. So this is a story that we'll be telling next week. But we really pray that, I mean, civil society organizations, I mean, government can really listen so that they can go, because these are vulnerable children. They really need a social protection program, school feeding, to actually go through their learning.
We're grateful, Jojo Kovna, for joining us this afternoon. Pensioner Bondholders Forum is also giving the government up to Friday, May 26, to actually pay all outstanding coupons and principals, or they will resume phase 3 of their picketing at the Finance Ministry. The group suspended phase 2 of picketing at the Ministry on May 12 after the government gave them enough assurance that they will pay all matured coupons and principals owed in arrears by May 16, 2023. But convener of the group, Dr. Edu Anani Entry, says the government has not paid the monies in full. We can now hear from Dr. Edu Anani Entry, who's joining us via Zoom now. Thank you, sir, for your time. So why do you intend to go back to the same place where you're not necessarily getting any positive results? Dr. Anani, if you can hear me, I'm just asking why you're deciding to go back to the Finance Ministry when it is clear that all the attempts you've made in times past have not yielded any positive outcome. Unfortunately, we've lost Dr. Edu Anani Entry. You're watching The Pulse. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Take you back to the bondholder story. Dr. Edu Anani is joining us now. Thank you, sir, for your time. You're threatening to go back to the Finance Ministry if your payments are not made available. Why go back to the same place where you're not getting positive outcome?
Well, thank you. I think that it is only when we pick it that the government takes us seriously.
We lost them again. We'll move on to some of the stories. A neurologist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Stephen Safo, is advising stroke survivors to desist from using herbal ointments for treating stroke. This comes on the back of a study that found that many stroke survivors turn to herbal medication with hopes of seeing improvement. Joining his medical correspondent, Dr. Netta Pasram, has more in this report.
The musician Abuame, Bakura American say Amuame. We used to, you know. It's a member and I prefer no.
Anecdotal evidence suggests the use of herbal preparations in the management of stroke among many Africans. The study, published in the Journal of Neurological Sciences, revealed that 43.4% of participants use herbal preparations when managing stroke. The main reasons for their use include expectations of faster recovery, cure, and superior effectiveness compared to approved conventional medications.
They are not just focusing on the orthodox medication, but there are other sources of treatment that they go to, including herbal medication and so forth. Now, our analysis showed clearly that those who are on herbal medications, their blood pressures were not as well controlled as those who were not on herbal medications. And that belief in herbal medication is something that we need to start working on and addressing. Because stroke survivors need to understand that, number one, there's a risk factor for the stroke, and that is maybe hypertension or high cholesterol, so those factors need to be addressed. But importantly, a lot of our stroke survivors only focus on the deficits or the disability that they have. So most of the herbal medications are applied to the skin, to the leg that is paralyzed, with the hope that applying them topically would help them to regain their strength. But as I explained in my earlier presentation, I said that the pathology in stroke occurs in the brain. So really applying agents to the skin may not be able to get to the brain to be able to reverse the damage that is done. And so it's something that we need to, as a country, collectively look at how we can balance this orthodox herbal medication use in the context of stroke care. Definitely, I'm sure those who are using herbal medications have done some research on their own or have done some work on their own And so we are not entirely saying that herbal preparations are to be banned or it's bad, no. What we are saying is that before we prescribe any herbal medication, we should at least know what the targets for the treatment is compared to what they're able to derive when they take their orthodox medication.
Professor Stephen Safo advises that individuals should manage their stroke risks such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Reporting for Joy News, Dr. Netta Pasra.
We go back to our earlier story about the pensioner bondholders. Dr. Richard Anani, Dr. Anani Entry is joining us via phone. Thank you, sir. Earlier I was asking about why you're going back to the finance ministry knowing that you're not getting any outcome from that side. Dr. Anani Entry, if you're with us, I was just asking the question, and we seem to be having some challenge for today, but let's try one more time if we can get through to Dr. Anani Entry. He has some important update on the pensioner bondholders and their demand for some coupons to be paid in terms of the maturing ones. Dr. Entry, can you hear me? Dr. Richard and Dr. Anani Entry, I beg your pardon, is back with us. Doc, if you can hear me, I was just asking why you're going back to the finance ministry.
We are going back because we think that it is only when we are picketing that the government understands us and look at our case. The first picketing got us the exemption. The second time we started, we were going to be there until all arrears were paid. Unfortunately, we had to rely on government assurance after a week, 5 days, when government called us and said it was going to pay everything up to 15th, and also speak with us, arrange how it was going to pay the principals. So we gave government the benefit of the doubt and stopped the picketing for a week to allow government to do that. The week passed, government hasn't finished paying all the arrears. 2 outstanding, which was 15, were never paid, and another coupon has matured yesterday. Government also agreed that it was going to meet with us to talk about the payment of the principal. We gave government up to the end of last week, 19th, that we should meet and have that discussion, finish that discussion. We never heard from government, even after we have sent a letter to government saying that we should finish that discussion by Friday last week. So we realized that because we have left the place, government is not taking us seriously. We have now written to government that we should pay the 3 outstanding coupons now and ensure that we meet and discuss the payment of the principals by the end of this week and finalize everything. If it doesn't happen, we are saying that we'll go back to the picketing. And when we get back to the picketing, we are not going to listen to any assurance or any promises whatsoever from government. We will be there until everything is paid because we have given government the opportunity. We have stopped it. We have suspended it. And if government couldn't go by its word, next time we get there, there will be no suspension. We will do it until everything is settled.
How long do you intend to stay there this time around?
Well, when Friday comes and government hasn't done what we want, we will just inform the police. And maybe technically we will want another Monday to come because the next Monday, another coupon will be mature, will be due. If we work out and we see another coupon is due on Monday, probably we will allow Monday to pass and see whether by Tuesday we will get some indication of payment. So that by Wednesday we will be there. If we haven't seen the indication of payment, then we can say there is another coupon which is also due that Monday coming, which government is still hasn't paid. So we will plan how to, but definitely we will converge there in the coming week. That's next week we will converge there. The day I'm not very sure, very sure, but by Wednesday we should be there.
Is it the case that you've not heard from government after the initial assurance?
Yes, no word at all, no word. So even if we have decided when we have spoken to you, we have a meeting and say you are going to clear all the arrears up to the coupon which was due on Monday 15th. And if you are not able to even do that, I think we should give us some information as to why that would not be done. We also wrote to you that we must meet you within the week and finalize the payment of these principals. One of them is now more than 3 months in arrears. You pick people's money that you return to them for them to reinvest. Government has kept it for another 3 months. So that amounts to another investing it for another 91 days in another 91-day bill. And we say we are going to demand interest on that. And so let's meet and talk about this. We've given you 1 week. We've written you a letter. No response to the letter. The week came, Friday came, and we haven't heard anything from government. That is it's not right. Government shouldn't treat the elderly like that.
How about those who have their coupons maturing? Any updates on them?
Come again.
For those who have their coupons maturing, of course, the expectation is that payment should have been made. Any updates on them?
We were monitoring, as of last week, government was paying all the coupons, even though not everybody has received the coupon. But we keep on saying that once it has started, it is a matter of your bank dealing with the entries and crediting your account, so you will have it. But for the 2 coupons, which was due on the 15th, no information at all about government authorizing or instructing that it should be paid. And then another one also got due yesterday. So now the 15th May and yesterday, which is 22nd Day, is still there, and government hasn't said anything about it. Then government hasn't said anything also about the principal, which we're supposed to meet government on. And we have written to you that let us meet and finalize it before 19. No word from government.
We're grateful, Doc, for your time here on The Pulse. And that's all we have for you here on the show. I'm Blessed Sugan. Log on to myjoyonline.com. Updates there. Thanks for watching. See you again. Bye-bye.